What we're discussing is this. In 1968, as the title says, Paul VI changes the rite of consecration of bishops. That's the problem. That's what we're discussing right now. Okay? Now, Father Zepeda tells us a story. He says it's in the last paragraph of the first column of the first page. I encountered the issue by chance during my first year at the Society of St. Pius X Seminary at Econ, Switzerland. Remember that Father Zepeda was there in the SSPX. I went to ask Archbishop Lefebvre about whether conservative friends from my former seminary could work with the society after ordination. He told me yes, in principle, but they would need to be conditionally ordained first, because Paul VI had changed the rite for holy orders. That's Archbishop Lefebvre telling him that. The Archbishop explained that the new form, the essential formula, the one that I just read to you, in the rite for priestly ordination, well, that's the Episcopal one, in the rite for priestly ordination was doubtful because one word had been subtracted. But in the new form for Episcopal consecration, the one that I just read to you, the Archbishop continued, was completely different, and thus it was invalid. Despite the gravity of the question, only a few traditionalist writers examined the post-Vatican II ordination rites, even after Tridentine and old masses started to multiply. What happens then? One thing to notice here, what is the position of the SSPX? And as I'm saying these things, I wanted to be very clear. I grew up in the SSPX. I know a lot of priests from that grew up in the SSPX, is very good people, some of them. I'm not trying to bash anyone. Okay, this is not a thing of trying to make a party and trying to get people to come here. I'm just trying to get to the truth, and that's why I'm trying to bring all these documents to you. The position of the SSPX has varied from they were not valid to maybe they are, to they are valid and shush. And this I can prove it very easily. For the longest time, even till recent years, the Society of St. Pius X had as a policy, if you came from the Novus Ordo, you are reordained. And everybody knows this. I mean, all of you that have been in the tradition for a while know this, that the Society of St. Pius X, if a new priest came, they would reordain him depending on who it was that received him, because some of them would not be. And actually, Father Hesse, Gregory Hesse, which has a lot of YouTube videos, and he has one on this topic, he did not join the SSPX because of that, because the SSPX told them you have to be reordained, and he said, I'm not going to be reordained. And that's why he never joined them. And this was in recent years. It was way after Lefebvre passed away. As far as I know, I might be wrong with that. As we are going to see in this article, they kind of waver in the opinions, even at the time of Bishop Lefebvre. Father Schmitzberger, of whom I won't get into what I've heard, but Father Schmitzberger is the one that is telling Bishop Lefebvre, no, they might be valid, they might be valid. So they're kind of like researching the topic, but they never go into full detail. When they become valid is when they start negotiations with Rome, because when they begin having negotiations with Rome, and Rome seems to be very friendly, this is at the time of Benedict XVI especially, how can I go to Rome and ask them to work with them if I say that they are not bishops? You know what I mean? That totally puts a kibosh on the whole talks of friendliness. So in order for them, and I'm not saying that's the reason why they did it, but it's obviously it was an obstacle. In order for them to talk with Rome, they needed to recognize the consecration of bishops, and that's why they start studying the matter more deeply. And that's when the article from the SSPX comes out, saying the consecration of bishops is valid. And this article here is to rebuke this one, to refute, excuse me, this one over here. So far, any questions? No? Okay. So we have three people that are studying the topic. We have Father Zepeda, the SSPX, and Father Zepeda actually studied another group from France, which call themselves Rore Sanctifica, which is part of the formula, of the traditional formula for the consecration of bishops. And he mentions that in this paragraph over here, the second to the last in the second column. In the summer of 2005, a French traditionalist publisher, Edition Saint-Remy, published the first volume of Rore Sanctifica, again the French accent, a book-length dossier of documentation and commentary on the Paul VI rite of Episcopal consecration. It was, I think he says it in here, but it was like several hundred pages. The study, featuring on its cover side-by-side photos of Ratzinger and the SSPX superior Bernard Fellet, concluded that the new rite was invalid. And this is then when the SSPX that are negotiating with Benedict XVI started studying. He says in the last paragraph, the Dominicans in Avrilé, France, a traditionalist religious order in the SSPX orbit, immediately took up the task of trying to make a convincing case for the validity of the new rite. And one of them, Father Pierre-Marie, is the one that writes the article in favor of the consecration of bishops. And then the Angelus translates that into English. Now, something that is interesting about this, kind of ironic, if you see the first page, there's a quote in there by Father Pulvermacher. Once there are no more valid priests, they will permit the Latin Mass. He was the editor of the Angelus before.